National Treasury's latest annual report on non-compliance around the payment of suppliers within 30 days has revealed that over 10 billion rand worth of invoices were not processed in 12 months. This reflects an overall regression by national and provincial government departments in the 2023-2024 financial year. The late payment or non-payment of service providers remains a burden for businesses as scores are forced to borrow money to fund operational finances, while smaller entities face the risk of closing down. National Treasury Chief Director for Governance Monitoring, Moipone Ramoipone, speaks to us about this. Thank you so much for your time. Very concerning findings here. Talk us through the overall regression that we've seen in this particular report.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to all your viewers. So in aggregate, from the 2023-2024 financial year, we realized that there was a regression in payment of suppliers. Majority of it emanated at a provincial level rather than at a national level. So at a provincial level, they contribute 70% of the unpaid invoices, whilst at national level, it's only at 30%. Therefore, if you look at the report, we have done a split in terms of the different provinces that are regressing and those that have improved. I need to mention that even at national level, there are certain about 11 national departments that has improved in terms of paying their suppliers on time.
Now, what are the main contributing factors here when it comes to a governance structure as well as a financial system that would ensure that the promise of payment within 30 days is actually in place?
It can be attributable to many challenges that institutions do provide to the National Treasury when they do submit this exception reports. So basically, it's a non-compliance report that gets submitted to the National Treasury on a monthly basis. And some of the reasons that they provide is that invoices as received are not being recorded on time, or in some instances are misfiled. You find that in some instances the budget is there, however, it's not aligned with the procurement plans, which would mean then at the end of the day, then there wouldn't be money to pay for goods and services that has been supplied. There are other instances where you find that the system is decentralized as opposed to being centralized, and there are many issues specifically where invoices has to be located from regions, and many processes around the checks and balances that needs to take place. Like, for instance, when an invoice is received, the cost center manager, they have to ensure that the amount is correct. They have to ensure that the banking details are verified on the safety web. So all the checks and balances are quite crucial to ensure also that government pays for the goods and services that has been delivered, also to reduce the risk of error and fraud in the process. So if the internal control system of the institution is developed in such a way that it's able to do these checks and balances timelessly, then the 30 days period can be achieved by these institutions. So it's basically following what has been put in the policy and operating it and applying it as intended by the department.
Those checks and balances are very vital, and I'm interested in finding out the devastating impact, though, that non-payment or late payment has on businesses in South Africa. We know very well that it's tough economic times for every single individual, but at a business level, especially for smaller entities who are unable to then carry on financing their businesses, keeping afloat without some of these large sums of payment.
It's very crucial, especially for government. I mean, the financial health of these institutions is very important, specifically for those and micro, medium enterprises wherein they contribute to the employment of South Africa and to also alleviate poverty. So we want this institution to always be in a good financial standing, also when they produce their financial statements to the banks in a case where they want to borrow. So it's easy when they do have equity, then the bank is able to provide them with sufficient borrowings that they may need to keep afloat. So payment on time is quite crucial. Also, even to pay salaries of those poor employees already that are struggling. So if an institution is not paid on time, it also affects the people on the ground that are working for these small and micro enterprises.
As a parting shot, any positives that have been picked up in this particular report, green shoots maybe, that would indicate that going forward there is a path that can be followed in South Africa in this regard that would lead to some progress?
Yes, so we at the National Treasury, we developing a Treasury instruction. We already have an instruction that outlines the reporting to ensure that there's regular accountability, governance and transparency around this whole process. However, the instruction that we will be developing will deal more into the consequence management and what accounting officers need to do. We also realize that we need to assist institutions also with an electronic system that will enable them to track all the invoices from a point of receipt up to a point of payment, and also allow them some space to develop their own internal mechanisms to do those checks and balances to keep within the time frame of the 30 days. I think what is crucial from the work that National Treasury currently does is that all the suppliers are able to log queries with the National Treasury, and we facilitate and assist them to ensure that payment is made on those invoices that are currently not being disputed. Then we're able to communicate with the chief financial officers of institutions and inquire what the problem is so that payment can be fast-tracked and these institutions are able to honor their obligations as well from their side. I can just indicate we received a total of 245 queries last year from the suppliers, which in terms of value, it emanated to 198 million, and we were able to resolve all of those queries together with the Provincial Accountants General in addressing the late payment of suppliers. So I think the queries portal hotline is also one of the greatest tools that we've developed at National Treasury to assist the suppliers to come forth when payment is being delayed from their side. Thanks.
The latter is encouraging. Thank you so much for your contribution. Moipone Ramoipone is a Chief Director at National Treasury.